Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of The Podcast Strikes Back. My name is George and you're listening to our review of Okja, Netflix's new film by Bong Joon-ho. Very exciting stuff. And I've got the boys here with me to give the full review and discussion. Connor.
Hello.
Benny.
Hello, everybody.
So enthusiastic. I love this energy. So we're talking about the trailer not too long ago.
This is a big deal.
I think we were all very excited for this.
But this is a Netflix original film. This is the first film we reviewed that hasn't been released theatrically.
Yes.
And this is a controversial one. This movie got booed the shit out of it at Cannes.
Really?
Yeah.
It's been banned in certain countries.
Wow.
That's extreme.
No, I'm not actually kidding. Like, that's not a joke. That they're not showing it in certain
Sounds like a
countries.
joke to me. It got booed at the beginning at Cannes, and then at the end it had like a 7-minute standing ovation or something. So it's a very interesting sign of the times that we're in now.
You should mention that it wasn't booed because it was a bad film. It was booed because a lot of people at Cannes are not too hyped around Netflix platform.
Yeah,
that's
the whole thing. Yeah, because that's why I said it was booed at the beginning. Like at the very beginning of the film, it was booed when the Netflix logo came up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, on to the film.
I am a massive fan of Bong Joon-ho. Memories of Murder was kind of one of my first introductions to Korean cinema.
Mm-hmm.
Quentin Tarantino is a big advocate of that little niche, and after I saw that film, I got kind of obsessed with Korean films. I saw a bunch. I saw The Devil, and then Snowpiercer came out a few years ago, and there's just so many great films coming out of that country.
Is Oldboy?
Oldboy, yeah, Oldboy's that was
the one that got
classic.
me.
Yep.
It's very different than the stuff coming out of Hollywood.
Yeah. So I was really excited for Okja, and I absolutely love this film.
Yeah, I've only seen The Host and Snowpiercer, both of which I really, really liked. And I thought the trailers for this looked fantastic. And Georgie, I loved it too.
I love that this wasn't your standard film. It was something new. It was something fresh. And to be honest, I've got to agree with both of you. I really enjoyed this film. I thought it was really excellent.
It really was very different than anything that's getting released out there. It was like almost like a children's film for adults.
Yeah.
In a way, which is really cool. That's not financially viable to be released in cinemas. So while some people may be decrying kind of, the death of cinemas with this, streaming platform releasing films like this.
The shackles are off.
Exactly. They can do stuff that you can't get away with in the current marketplace, which is really refreshing.
And I can't remember picking up on a lot of the subject matter in the trailer that this film deals with, because it deals with some really interesting, heavy themes and a lot of stuff that we're facing as humans, as population increases. The director, he's able to, his biggest strength, I think, is characters. He is just able to build characters and little character moments that enhance everything that's going on screen and just inform you about who these people are and what they do and what they represent. And I was just so impressed with this film. It felt so fresh. I loved everything about it. And that comment you said about the children's film, at the beginning I was like, this feels like a film for the whole family, but it gets so dark towards the end. I don't know who this is aimed at.
So many F-bombs all the way through.
Yeah, I love Tilda Swinton's F-bomb.
Different film.
Yeah. Fantastic. And I think to touch on what you said, George, about that, there's a lot of really cool themes that they delve into. While they do that, I don't feel like I'm being bashed on the head with them.
Yes.
It's not like, it's kind of inherently woven into the story and not just kind of like, you get a lot of those types of films that try to champion certain causes. And obviously this one, it's very much the, treatment of animals is the main kind of
the mass production of livestock.
Yeah. Factory farming.
And some GMO stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it never feels preachy, really.
It doesn't. It certainly doesn't.
I've seen a lot of comments from people who haven't actually watched the film yet, who are like, "Oh, I don't want to be bashed over the head by some fucking hippie." And the movie is really not like that. If that's something you're worried about,
I mean, it'd be like saying Babe is about fucking eco warriors and hippies, and you're like, nah, it's a lovely story that we all enjoyed. So I just kind of made the parallel between Babe because I figured that's this for me. This film was a mixture of Babe and Pete's Dragon.
Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that. I love the sci-fi element to this film as well. It felt a very tangible sci-fi. That's something I'm really a big fan of, is when something feels real. It feels like this could actually happen in the world.
Well, it is happening.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, certainly not with giant pigs, but
it's going to happen
enough.
Before you know it. We'll be seeing the exact stuff that happens in this film, and that was something that, once again, the sci-fi wasn't bashed. You weren't bashed over the head, but it was woven into the story and done intelligently.
Yeah. Were there any things that you didn't enjoy about this film? Kind of in a general sense?
I can't think of anything that I didn't enjoy about this film.
Yeah.
I love this guy's style. I think this will hopefully introduce a lot of people into Korean cinema. There's a ton of movies in that genre that I need to delve back into, because this has reignited the fire for me. I really want to get back into that genre.
You mentioned that his strength was character. I think on top of that is tone. This movie so effortlessly juggles kind of humor and horror almost.
Yeah.
Really effectively, which is something that I feel like a lot of foreign cinema does better than kind of Hollywood stuff.
I think a lot of foreign films, they're not afraid to have films complement or contrast with each other. It doesn't have to be a linear tone through the whole film.
Yeah.
And this certainly isn't a linear tone.
No, it's not. And that's what I loved about it.
I will touch on something. It has nothing to do with the craft of the film. I think that, this guy knows exactly what he's doing. The only thing that kind of niggled me was at the very beginning, or the main kind of villain in this was made out to be GMOs. And I think that's something that's massively misunderstood. So it bothered me because I was like, I'm getting too technical into this. I'm getting thrown from this film because of a kind of a nitpick.
Yeah, I know what you mean, because
everything we eat is GMO.
GMOs is a very contentious issue, and there's a lot of ignorance surrounding it out there.
Yeah.
I, for one, am completely against genetic modification. I'm kidding. Don't look at me like that. But I think this movie was a little more nuanced in that regard than maybe you're giving it credit for, because
I think so as well.
There's two clashing sides in this. There's the company Mirando, is it?
Yeah.
Very much a Monsanto sort of thing. And there's the kind of the eco warriors, like the PETA organization.
Yeah.
And I don't think you're meant to be entirely on either side necessarily, because it's the young girl and her super pig, Okja, are the ones caught in the middle. And, I think, because even Tilda Swinton's bad guy character does mention how people are too stupid to handle GMO stuff. And I'm like, see, I actually sympathize with her at this point. And I
she had a lot of kind of sympathetic moments, her vision. And this is one of the things that I thought this did really cleverly. I think that they were able to show that you can be someone in that position and have a dream, have this kind of vision for what you're trying to achieve. So I want to cure world hunger, and I want to protect the environment and all this kind of stuff.
But what do you have to do to make those things?
Well, what do you have to do to make those
happen?
things? And from someone else's perspective, you're this psychopath, and you're like, no, I'm just trying to change the world for better.
That's the thing, because it's such a complicated issue, and we're all complicit in it. I mean, the kind of stuff that is shown in this film, I won't get into spoilers, but just the kind of the mass production of meat, the way they show it and stuff is I would say, if anything, much less horrific than how it is in the real world.
Oh yeah, but I think handled incredibly well.
Fantastically, yeah.
It gives you enough horror to really portray an accurate picture, but it doesn't get gruesome. It doesn't get just it doesn't go to that gore level, which I think he nailed that element. He nailed that the horror.
They went
of
further.
factory farming.
It's intense without being I'm going to force you to never eat meat again.
It's
by
not
showing you
gratuitous.
something.
Is
Exactly.
the main thing.
That's it.
And that's very much an intentional thing. I've mentioned this before, and it's one of the reasons I was so hyped to see this film is the Dan Harmon podcast, where he goes on probably about a 10-minute rant about this film, about how much he loves it. And they had someone from the production on his show talking about, the executives and the production crew went to slaughterhouses, and they went and saw, the kinds of things that are happening in the real world, and they used that to inform this, but they never at no point did they want the audiences to be like, oh, fuck meat. Like it comes back to that point. Like they didn't want to bash people over the head with this.
Well, I think it's very much made a point of that the little girl, the main character, does eat meat. Like it.
Yeah, I noticed that. I was thinking at the beginning, like she eats.
But I think just going back to your GMO thing, I never felt they were bashing you over the head. I think they were presenting it in a way where the company was bad, not the tech or the medical advancements. I felt like the intent that was being used with that. And I think that was really successful. And then another really successful thing about this film was Tilda Swinton. I think she was a very complex character. And I think that her agenda, her relationship with her father, maybe we're getting into a bit of spoilers here, but her background was really nicely, they had depth.
She was not villain A.
She wasn't just like archetypal villain.
She was a character.
And I just really enjoyed that.
I love Tilda Swinton in absolutely everything, and she definitely delivered here again. What an amazing cast this movie has as a whole.
Wow.
For a Netflix film, I couldn't believe it.
What did you guys think of Jake Gyllenhaal's performance?
Gyllenhaal, okay, so that's going to be the big talking point for a lot of people.
That is unlike anything he's ever done before.
He really goes for it. It's something different for him. I think a lot of people are going to have a problem with that one, but I thought he was fun and very interesting.
I thought he was really interesting.
Really interesting characters. This poor husk of a man.
And again, I keep referencing it because it's a great wealth of information. That Dan Harmon podcast where they had someone talking about, I can't remember for the life of me her name. It was one of the producers on the film. Talking about why...
Christina Oh, I think.
Was it? Yeah. Why he went that direction. And it really was kind of, from memory, the spur of a moment type thing. It was in that first scene where he like walks up the thing, he's out of breath, and he had kind of had this like weird, he just played it very weird, and they're like, all right, well that's the way we're going with this.
Really high voice, and I love whenever he's on camera, he goes back down to the
low, low register.
Voice, yeah.
It's funny because Ben does the same thing with his voice. This is the voice he only uses for the podcast.
This is how I normally talk. Oh, God. It's good to have that out there.
Yeah.
So much less pressure. Paul Denno as well. I haven't seen him in anything in a while.
Yeah.
It was really good to see him again. I really liked him in this. I have no idea.
He's in Looper.
Yeah. The Looper was a while back.
How long ago was that?
2014.
Oh, my God.
2013. But yeah, he was fantastic.
He always plays
Swiss Army Man.
Oh, yeah. He always plays this kind of nebbishy weirdos.
Yeah.
And he was...
very successfully.
And he was used to good effect in this one as well because he plays like the head of the kind of eco-terrorism organization who insists they're not terrorists, which is
They reminded me a lot of the terrorist group in 12 Monkeys.
Yeah. And it's based off a real group.
Yeah.
Kind of loosely.
Yeah.
Peter.
And so... essentially. He's... he's kind of just an interesting character. He's kind of morally ambiguous almost, like they're doing bad things for the right reasons. Sort of.
It's so interesting. There's so much grey area in this film, and I think the whole issue that it deals with, the main issue, it has so much grey area, and that it really presents the whole thing in a very transparent way.
Did you... well, it was transparent, but at the same time, I almost got like a parody vibe from it.
Parody?
Like a lot of the characters were almost like parodies of... So there's one of those eco... non-terrorists that is almost like a parody of the eco-warrior. Tilda Swinton almost felt like a parody of the well-meaning but also kind of psychopathic CEO. Like it was just...
Yeah, they were archetypes.
They felt relatively
satirical.
It was kind of making fun of both sides, which I liked. Lily Collins was in this as well as Red.
Who is she?
She's Red, one of the
she was great.
Well, she was barely in it. It's so weird. But that's so cool. That just speaks to how much people want to work with Bong Joon-ho, I guess, because like she's a movie star in her own right. And she was in a very much a background role in this.
She had a really great scene where it was quite a harrowing scene, and her performance helped crystallize what the intention of that whole sequence was. So I was very impressed with her.
All right, let's chuck in some final thoughts, and we can talk about a couple spoilers, yeah?
Yeah.
Just before in terms of little cameos, you see, notice Moaning Myrtle, George?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That voice.
Just wanted to put that in there. It's so iconic.
Yeah.
Harry. Final thoughts for me is if you've got a Netflix subscription, head there right now and get that motherfucker going because Okja is one of the best films so far in 2016. It's in my top 5. I'm not going to say where
it's
it is.
2017, George.
Sorry. Far out.
Welcome to the world, George.
Damn. I love this film. I love Bong Joon-ho. I'm just so glad this was a success because I think this could continue. This could be the first of many, many great productions coming out of Netflix.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a very easy film to recommend. No matter where you fall on the debate about eating meat even, I think it's just a very interesting film, a cool look at it, and it's free if you have Netflix. So just watch this movie. We'll never find out the viewing numbers. Netflix doesn't release that, but I would like to see this do well.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, definitely. You guys have pretty much said everything I feel about this film. What I will say is if you have the option to go see this film, think twice about taking your kids because it presents itself very much as a babe type film, like PG.
Or My Neighbor Totoro. I thought it was going to be more like that, like really cutesy.
Yeah. There is some
watching the
heavy
trailer,
shit.
I was like, there's something dark going on.
Yeah.
Here.
There is some
Definitely
heavy
got that
shit in
vibe.
this film. And so, which I thought like really, really, really complimented the film.
I think for early teens, or 10 plus, it's complex enough that it'll appeal to that, and it's not horrific enough to put them off. But I think like a young kid, a 6-year-old, no, it's too much.
I think it's very much that Amblin level.
Yeah.
Like E.T., anyone who saw that before they were 10 is scarred for life. But everyone who saw it after that is like, this is kind of the perfect level.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it might be a good introduction, so kids can figure out where their meat comes from, because I think that is important.
Yeah,
if you're gonna
yeah.
eat it, you might as well have at least. I don't think you should put kids into a slaughterhouse because that shit's horrific no matter which way you spin
it's
it.
too much.
But just be conscious of what's going on.
Yeah, not to get like political about it, but but I was literally thinking the other day, this would be cool to be shown in schools.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think so.
So, it's kind of an intro to the issue.
It's year 6 above. Yeah.
So let's move into spoilers. So if you haven't seen Okja yet, move away from the podcast.
Yeah.
Move away from
Pause it.
the podcast.
Well, come back, pause it, then move away, watch this film, and come back.
So I think one of the way this film opened really impressed me and kind of threw me off because I wasn't expecting this whole notion or theme to be presented about these animals getting genetically modified and creation. And I saw this little seed. I was very interested for where this film was going because it set up an amazing premise, and I was on board and hooked in from that opening few moments.
I really like the characterization of Okja herself, because I feel like these super pigs weren't shown to be like too much smarter than real animals.
Well, see, this is something I was just about to mention. Is I thought it was incredibly clever what the filmmakers did in the first 10 minutes of this film, which is that scene where Okja saves. I'm not going to be able to pronounce the girl's name. Mija. That scene was so clever in for a couple of reasons. Number one is you get an emotional bond with this Okja character because it's saving the little girl. So you're like, there's an emotional bond. Excellent. The second one was close-up shots of the eyes and the eye movement. Kind of gives this impression that it's a smart feeling. Like,
There's something there. It's emotional.
It's got human eyes.
It's conscious.
Which is incredibly clever from, a bonding perspective, just like, human psychology.
Yeah.
And then they showed basic reasoning within these characters or within these pigs, which is, he saw the fulcrum or the log that was coming out. She saw the fulcrum and went and pulleyed him up.
Yeah.
That scene gave you so it's a bit ridiculous, but it solidified some things about the Okja character.
I found it very emotional.
Well, very, very, it hit
when
emotional
Okja essentially
heartstrings.
sacrificed
And I
herself.
think this is one of Bong Joon-ho's biggest strengths is he is effortlessly characterizes and tells story through actions and the camera. And that scene has done all those things you just said effortlessly. It's informed the audience We are better orientated about what these animals are.
Well, you know they're clever, thinking, feeling animals now,
and
you
you
have a
know that
connection to
she
them.
loves like this. This is why I love this film so much. I think it's so brilliantly put together.
But further to my point, I don't feel like it stretches credibility, though. I still feel like they feel like animals, which is really important because that's what
They
the whole
felt
movie
like
is about.
kind of ape intelligence is probably where I'd put them.
Yeah.
I think they could have made them too smart, and it would have lost. It would have lost a lot of the intent of the piece.
Yeah.
The CG, I think one thing I should have said earlier about negative was sometimes the CG wasn't like 100%. It was like an 85. But I didn't bother me.
86.
Yeah.
It didn't bother me.
It was a $50 million budget.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's kind of the level of
That's what you're
CG
gonna
we
get.
got, but
Yeah.
it was never gratuitous.
No.
Like it was never, used where it didn't need to be.
When it's working so well on all the other levels, it's just not really an issue. If it's not 100%, which is good.
There are moments in this film where if it was if that kind of level of CGI was in a different film, like for example, in like a DC film or something like that, I'd be harping on about it till, Kingdom Come.
Which you did with Wonder Woman.
Which I did because
Yep.
that's unacceptable in that kind of film that prides itself on the way that it looks.
Yep.
This film has such a strength in the story, has such a strength in the characters. That you're
But
like,
if that animal hadn't worked, it wouldn't the movie a lot of things are riding on that working. And the fact that they nailed it, kudos.
do you mean like the character or like the
I think
creature
the design, I think the way it moved, I think the eyes, I think the way it interacted, I think there was just a lot of moving parts there that one of those doesn't sync up. That whole intent of this piece is diminished and gone.
They made that fucking thing cute.
Yeah.
God damn it.
So what about the rape scene?
Wow.
Holy fuck.
It's
that was-
interesting, like you calling it the rape scene because that's exactly what it felt like.
That's how
It
it's
was
played. Really,
really bizarre.
that
Like,
that like buck or whatever it was. That thing was fucking terrifying.
It
I
was
was-
messed up.
Looked like a Frankenstein's monster.
It was a messed up scene. But it did exactly what it was supposed to do.
Yeah.
And that's when I was talking earlier about Lily Collins. Like she was like, we shouldn't have done this. Like this animal's like getting raped, and we've put it in its scenario. And the Aussie guy from Snowtown was like, we didn't know they were going to do that. This is fucked up. It was very intense.
I really liked the way that the what was the organization called? ALF, Animal Liberation Front. Yeah, I really liked how they were portrayed. In the film, they were much more likable than the real world's analogs. I find.
but this is the thing. Like part of it, I think, was because they were almost satirical. You didn't, it wasn't all too dark. The guy that was like, "No, I can't have a tomato because of the environmental impact."
Yeah,
I really
was very
like
funny.
Stephen Ewan as well from Walking Dead.
I
I don't watch Walking Dead.
As the Korean translator.
Yeah. He was good.
He's a good character with a cool arc.
Yeah. Very cool arc.
And interesting, him and Paul Denno, their names are J and K.
Yeah.
Men in Black.
Yeah.
Odd.
Weird.
Oh yeah, I don't know. It's strange. I like it.
It's a weird parallel to. Did you read that somewhere, or did that just kind of come to you?
No, they say it in the same sentence. Like, I'm Jay, this is K. I'm like, that's Men in Black. Like, that's intentional. That's 100% intentional. I don't know why, but they called J and K. That's interesting.
I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything. I'd like to talk about the final scene.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything you guys want to touch on
You
before
mean
we
the
get into
climax in
the
slaughterhouse?
climax and the whole scene of walking through the slaughterhouse.
I do want to ask, pertaining to that scene, what was your percentage of likeliness that they were going to shoot Okja in the head? Like when you were watching that, how tense were you, or how sure were you that like this was
No,
going to
I
have
was
a happy ending?
50-50. I'm like, they could do it.
That same.
This is a Netflix film. Like, this could happen. Absolutely.
These guys
I was
don't
the
give a
same
fuck.
As well.
Yeah.
The film was taking that many risks at that stage. It had surprised me so many times by that point.
Yeah.
Anything was
I
possible.
really like how they were able to pull off I say in quotes, a victory, so they get Okja back, but also impress upon you that they didn't really achieve the victory that they were looking for, which is, we're going to stop meat production forever, which is this kind of idealistic, I guess, pipe dream.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're not going to stop the machine.
I
You're
liked
not going to
the-
stop the business.
I think that's one thing that I loved about this film was the micro and macro. At the beginning of this film, Tilda Swinton gives that big presentation, and that's the macro. And then it goes to the micro with their relationship on the farm and in nature, and how those two relate. And
Two
at the
different
end of the story, the micro story, there was a victory, but on the grand scale, everything's proceeding as planned.
Well, yeah, that's what's so fucked up. That's what's great. It's galvanizing. It's like the job has not been done yet, and it's kind of like, well, that's where we are now in the world.
And what I love is this kind of, you can take what you will from that kind of ending, because some people will be saying, well, that's good. Like, I mean, we need food for the world. They're solving X problems, and then the other half of the audience is going to be like,
I don't think anyone's walking out of this movie like that.
Well, certainly not walking out like right after
the concentration camp scene.
in the sense of like, I was talking to some people that were saying that, or listening to some people that were saying, I didn't want to eat meat for the next 2 days, but afterwards I was like, yeah, fuck it, I'm gonna eat meat. I think the immediate reaction is certainly like that, but the conversation that you have afterwards is certainly a little bit more enriched and less black and white.
Yeah. I love the density that this film presents in the gray area. But anyway, what I wanted to talk about was that final scene. Okja is, about to get blasted in the head, and the little girl presents the photograph, and then Tilda Swinton's second character she plays, the sister
Nancy,
comes over, and she's like, kill the thing. This is a business deal. We make business deals, and there's a transaction. And I loved the next bit, and I thought it was such a fucking genius play where the little girl proposes a business deal and trades the life of Okja for the pig. And I just loved that. I thought it made so much sense, and it added to Tilda Swinton's character. It fit, and it was spot on. I was impressed. I was so impressed.
I certainly think it was a clever ending. To be honest, my favorite part of the ending was that second last scene where she's just standing next to Okja, and Okja does a little whisper into her ear. I thought that was so subtle, yet so incredibly, like, I could have seen that scene. I was really worried about this for a split second where like Okja was going to speak, like sentient being, and you're like, oh god damn it, we were so close. Yeah. But no, I loved the subtlety of the scene. I loved that there was no kind of grand fanfare after that. Like, they saved the little baby and they went on and they kind of lived their little micro life.
Yeah.
You take the victory that you can.
Yeah.
There is actually a pretty sizable scene after the credits though, so stick around for that.
Yeah,
if you missed it. It was a fun little bit.
I missed it the first time. And
one other thing. What about the meat when they're trying out the meat? That was disturbing. Do you remember that with they extracted some of that meat and fried it, and then they were doing a taste test with a focus group.
But if you think about it, like if this were a real life scenario, they'd definitely be doing that shit.
Of course.
Yeah.
But it's messed up.
Oh yeah, 100%.
It's So I can't wait to watch this film again. There's so much to digest.
So to speak.
Yeah. So much Okja.
I just want to watch the scenes where they're eating the super pigs. And just, it's good.
Oh, man, I can't wait for that super pig.
Yeah. Look, I think we've probably gushed about this film enough. Final thoughts around it. It's amazing.
It's one of the best films to come out this year. Do yourself a favor, go check it out. And if you have already seen it because you're listening to the spoilers. So well done. Congratulations. Let's be friends.
Achievement unlocked.
Love it. Well done.
I think people will one day look back at the meat industry and consider us barbarians.
Yeah, I think so.
This is a legitimate question. I know we don't want to get too political on it. But do you think that that's the way that we're going? Do you think it's, the morally better stance to be vegetarian, all that kind of nonsense?
I think it's interesting when you think about status quo in society. Like at one point, the gladiatorial battle was a pastime that you would go to and watch people die.
It wasn't a moral conundrum.
Savagely.
I think people will look at the way we eat meat like blood sports. Yeah. Like, I think it'll be the same thing.
And we're so indoctrinated, and we're so...
It'll be a long time from now, but...
Like, we've seen it since we were a kid. Like, we've go to the supermarket and there's the meat in the package. It's no different to buying a bottle of Coke. It's a product.
I think it's certainly like for people like us. I think it's certainly like morally, it's probably better to be a vegetarian, but not enough that I'm gonna like cry myself to sleep because I had a steak. To be honest, like no one's doing that right now.
Yeah.
I think that with the world the way that it is right now, especially with like third world, societies that don't have the luxury of those kind of decisions that we do. I think that that's still very much something that we should take into consideration.
Of course.
I think there's definitely a big difference between eating meat and the mass production of meat products, though, and I think that's what this movie is more about.
But let's just think about this for a sec. Let's just think about this for a sec. Who is going to be producing meat for world hunger? Like, where's the profit there? Who's going to be the good Samaritan that's going to do that? As the owner of this business in Okja it's a business transaction. It's about profits. It's about making dough. I have little faith in humanity to say that people will be shipping bountiful amounts of.
No. So when I say like third world countries and people that we have the ability to afford moral choices like that.
Oh yeah.
But you'd be surprised at how many people get angry at people providing a big industry in third world countries is milk, and you'd be surprised at how many people demonize people that promote milk. You murderers and rapists and all that kind of shit. But I mean, it's not something that most people take into consideration. And to bring it back to the film, if nothing else, this film has sparked that conversation for better or for worse, and I think it's really clever.
Yeah, and it's not preachy. It's
the discussion afterwards that's preachy.
It's just showing you the lay of the land. I think in a very interesting way. Anyway, I think that's it for our Okja review. Hit that subscribe button, people. And if you like this, give us a review. We would love that. That would be really nice.
It'd make our day.
Yeah.
A good review. A bad review would really hurt us.
Yeah.
We're still at that point where we read every review and like that shit hurts. Why you got to do us like that?
Makes or breaks the whole week.
All right, guys. I'm looking forward to it. We'll see you then.
All right.
Peace out.
See you.
Hello.
Hello.